I don't know if you can tell or not from my channel, I'm not too sure if it's obvious, but I kind of like Crash Bandicoot. And with nearly all of the games in the series, minus a few of them, I'll play through the game and then a year or two later, I'll get the urge to replay it and complete it again. We're approaching that time with the Wrath of Cortex. It's been 2 years or a year and a half or something since I last completed this game. So I wanted to take this chance to talk about the game before I make a new save file, because this game is very mixed. You might have a lot of nostalgia for this game, you might enjoy it, but there's a lot of people that do not. For very valid reasons too. It's not a perfect game by any means. It's not even close to a perfect game. Don't take that as a personal attack, right? I've made a lot of videos on Crash games before, and I might say something negative about a game that a lot of people like. I've made videos like, is Crash of the Titans a good game? A game that I actually kind of like, but I do have criticisms about. And people have just said, yeah, it's a great game. Fuck you. Can't say anything negative about someone's nostalgic favorite, definitely perfect childhood game, right? Anyway, the Wrath of Cortex was the first next-generation PlayStation 2 Crash Bandicoot game, so I think a lot of people went into this with higher expectations to begin with. You know, if the original trilogy on the PS1 is so good, and we had CTR as well, and Crash Bash, what the hell are they going to do on the PS2? It's going to be amazing. And then you get into the opening cutscene, and the game looks like this. I think it's a combination of the fact that people had higher expectations going into this, with it being on the PS2, but also the fact that it was brand new of a generation to develop for. Maybe that had an impact and was the reason why the cutscenes look so, or the character models look so stiff. One of the main criticisms about the game is that it looks worse than the games that came out on the PS1, like Crash Warped. Well, let me clarify, I think the graphics actually look fine. A lot of the levels look really good, actually. It's the character models that just look really strange. Now, the game functions most similar to Crash Warped in the fact that you have these warp rooms, and you can effectively go in, collect crystals, gems, relics, fight a boss, and then move on to the next one. This game takes a lot of inspiration from Crash Warped, not just in the format and the way that the game works. It takes inspiration from the amount of vehicle levels that were in Crash Warped. It takes inspiration from its boss fights, like in Warp Room 4, the Crunch boss fight is pretty much exactly the same as the engine boss fight. Taking inspiration is not bad, but there are a few problems with this. The thing a lot of people do not like about Crash 3 is that it has too many vehicle levels. The reason why Crash 2 is a lot of people's favourite game in the series is because it's kind of that middle ground between Crash 1 and Warped. Yeah, you got a few vehicle levels like the jetpack ones toward the end of the game, but the majority of it is just platforming. But you have an expanded moveset upon Crash 1 where you can just run and jump. In Crash Warped, you got underwater levels, you've got biking levels, you've got jet ski levels, flying levels. A lot of these levels are good, but there's so many of them, and then you get levels like Rings of Power where it just feels like a wasted level slot. Like we could have something so much better in its place. So when the Wrath of Cortex comes along and takes that aspect of Crash Warped and then does it worse, it might not be everyone's cup of tea. Now, I've been saying a lot of negative things about the game, and you might be thinking, if you're new here, do you even like this fucking game? I thought you liked this. Let me say something positive about the vehicle levels, because yeah, you've got levels like Smokey and the Bandicoot where the Jeep is one of the worst controlling vehicles in the entire series. You've got levels like that sinking feeling, which shouldn't exist at all. However, the Wrath of Cortex introduced the Atmosphere, and these levels are some of the best in the game. Every single one of these levels is a banger. I think there's 4 of them total. Yeah, there's 4 of them, and they're all really, really good. You just roll around in the ball. The only bad thing about these levels is that they reused the old bosses from the series, so like Dingo Dial, Tiny Tiger, where they use them as generic barriers that prevent you from getting past, you know, generic obstacles, where really they should be using something like a lab assistant instead. Anything but the main villains from the previous games, because it just makes them look so pathetic. Like, you're telling me this guy...
Crash, I really am cross with you.
Oops, sorry, wrong clip. Has been reduced to this. That's the worst part about these levels, and that's the only time the bosses are actually utilized in this game, which we'll get to later. And it's funny because they're linear levels and like they appear multiple times throughout. So you'll see Dingo Dial, you'll pass him, and then he'll appear later on in the level. It's like there's multiple of them. They're just lab assistants. But anyway, outside of that, these levels are very, very good, in my opinion. For the relics as well, I had a great time lowering my relic times in them. I think my Medieval Madness time on this level is 7 seconds. The Platinum time is a 1 minute and 10-second run. I did a whole series on the relics for this game where I really tried lowering my time for most of the levels. This is one of the vehicles that controls really well, and if you need to make a sudden adjustment, typically you can do that and save the run. I also prefer the underwater levels here than in Crash Warped, and I consider these vehicle levels because you get vehicles in them, and you're also not doing the typical platforming that you would on foot, so I just consider it a vehicle level. But they're better here in the Wrath of Cortex, in my opinion, not only because you can get triple Accu underwater, so the masks don't feel like you're wasting them, not only because I just think it controls better, but you've got levels like H2O where it's kind of a split level. So it's like half of it is underwater and then half of it is you're on foot platforming. And I like that idea quite a lot. They do this thing where like a lot of mines kind of come through the background, the scenery of the levels, and it can be quite hard to see them, but that's one of the downsides of it. Again, the fact that you can get a triple Accu invincibility mask underwater kind of negates that a little bit because you can speed through everything. The first level of the second warp room, Jungle Rumble, has a Jeep section at the end of it, which is actually really good. It controls really well, and it's a very good section of the level. One of my favorite levels in the game, actually. It's just weird how in Smokey and the Bandicoot you get the vehicle, but it's terrible there. There's other vehicles in the game that I don't mind. It's like I don't think they're great, but they're also not bad by any means. The scooter in Tsunami, that's one of them. The mech suit is fine. The helipack is fine as well. That's just okay. But again, you get some proper shit levels like that sinking feeling where you gotta lock on to these ships 3 times in a row and it takes multiple seconds to lock on. And it likes to lock onto all the smaller ships surrounding the big ones, like the actual targets. One of my least favorite levels in the game, and I just think the game would have benefited from having less vehicle levels and more platforming. Because the platforming levels are very memorable in this game. You've got levels like, again, Jungle Rumble, Wizards and Lizards. It's such a great theme for a level, and it's just something that I've never forgotten about. It's one of the things that comes to my mind when I think about this game. Compactor Reactor, which again starts out as a vehicle level in a minecart, but that bit's actually really good. That's another thing that I really like about this level. But then again, it kind of transitions and it becomes its own thing. And I like the theme of this one. Banzai Bonsai, you cannot forget about this level. This level has to be mentioned every single time when you're talking about the best levels from this game. Gold Rush is another level that I think stands out and is quite enjoyable. This game has a good selection of memorable platforming levels. I think if they got rid of some of the shitter vehicle levels in favor of more platforming, it would have gone a long way. Also, can I present you all with a fun fact? The original Xbox version of the game, because that system was more powerful than the GameCube and the PS2, it's actually the best version to play on because it looks better than the other versions. And you can actually see Crash's fur. Get a look at that fur detail. Look at that fuzz. Now, one downside that people might have with this game is the boss fights, because they're all crunch. Like I said, the only time the boss characters are used outside of cutscenes in this game are for basic hazards in the Atmosphere levels. Oh, and I forgot, they're also the opposing drivers in the Jeep levels and the pilots in like the flying ones too. So my point still stands, they were used as lab assistants. In the Wrath of Cortex, it's all about crunch. So every boss fight is with him and the power of an elemental mask. And I actually think quite positively about the boss fights in this game. The first one is interesting because you're in that Atmosphere, which I guess counts as an extra Atmosphere level. It's nothing crazy, you just have to hit the boulders and turn them all to your color to deal damage to him. And with each phase of health, there's more boulders that you need to turn to your color. If he hits them, then it turns to his color, so then you'll have to hit them to turn it back to neutral, and then hit it again after that. Boss 2, though, I struggled on this one as a kid. This is a very solid boss fight. Even now, I mess this one up occasionally. All you do is run and jump, but the platforms are sinking, and you kind of sometimes miss time. Like, you think, oh, I'm going to wait on the platform for his next attack, and then you realize that you're sinking and you jump and get hit anyway. Crashes to Ashes is another good boss fight where you're running away from him, dodging the boulders that he's throwing at you, and you have to run to the mech suit and then chase him and spray him down and basically extinguish his fire. Warp Room 4's atmospheric pressure is a bit shit in my opinion. Again, it's just a copy of the engine boss fight, but worse. It looks cool. Okay, I'll give it that much. It does look very cool, but it's nothing unique or special to this game. And then in Warp Room 5, you get crunch time for the final boss. And my god, this is one of the best boss fights in the series. He essentially cycles through the powers of all the elemental masks. And you're in this little tight room. And you effectively have to go through this gauntlet of elemental power and then deal damage to Cortex eventually. This is a solid boss fight. So while they're all with Crunch, he gets different forms and they all look really cool and play differently. And so I like the boss fights outside of Warp Room 4's. One thing that was introduced in Warped and again was expanded on here was relics. And this game has some of the easiest platinum relics, which I suppose is not a great thing, but they're only easy because of all the various different tricks and fun things that you can do that this game allows. One thing this game lets you do, it's one of the only games that even lets you do this in the series, is you can get Aku Aku masks. For example, I have two right here in the main hub world. I can then go into a level, pick up the clock to start a relic, and keep the masks. In any other game, if you have masks and then you go and pick up the clock to start a time trial, it will get rid of them. Here, the game just doesn't care if you bring them in or not. And what this means is that if you're playing the level normally with a time trial, it means the first Aku Aku crate in a level can provide you with a triple invincibility if you bring two in. It lets you optimize certain sections of levels and achieve that platinum time a bit easier. Again, the fact that you can use triple Aku underwater as well is another great addition. On top of that, you can take Aku Aku's iframes and run in pits and not die to being out of bounds. This is great because one thing Wrath of Cortex is terrible with is its monkey bar sections. I don't know why they are programmed to be so slow, but my god, it takes forever to get through these sections, and I think the relic times were made with that in mind. So the fact that you can, you know, strategically take damage and then run across in the pit instead of being on the monkey bars and then jump up just before your iframes run out. I think stuff like that and all those kinds of optimizations are amazing, and you can only find them in the Wrath of Cortex. So if you're a time trial enjoyer and you like setting personal bests and lowering your time as far as it can go, you'll enjoy this game. I think in general, I just like the way that the Wrath of Cortex handles its 106% completion. I don't mind things like secret exits in Crash 3, but the Wrath of Cortex doesn't have any of that. There are no secret pathways or alternate exits to levels in order to get their gems. I don't need the difficulty in these games to be finding where to go or a secret. I just want it to be within the level itself and the platforming. So while I don't mind it in Warped, I'm kind of happy that this game didn't really take that inspiration from it. And I think that's all I really have to say. They are the main reasons why some people don't like this game. But the Wrath of Cortex has grown on me as I've gotten older. When I played this game as a kid, I would always get to like Warp Room 4 and then turn the game off. There was just something about this game when I was a kid that I found boring, and I would have gone and played Crash to Insanity or Nitro Kart, Tag Team Racing. But the things that I did like about the game, and the things that have grown on me more as I've gotten older, like time trial relics, I could definitely sit through it and fully complete it now and actually enjoy doing it. The whole reason why I'm on here right now is because I feel like doing that again. It's been about a year and a half, 2 years since I last did it, and I'll be doing it again. I might do it on stream, but I'm not too sure yet because I streamed it last time, so do I really need to do it again? But let me know down below what you think about the Wrath of Cortex. Do you think it's a good game? Do you enjoy it? Do you hate it? Is there anything that you don't like about it that I didn't mention in this video? I didn't even plan on making this, but there's probably going to be a few things that I've made. It's not a scripted review. I didn't even think about making this today. I just woke up and wanted to talk about the game. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Definitely subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you all in my next video.